Hi, everyone, and welcome back to GEM. Today's episode is one that I am really looking forward to because I'm joined by Jane Dougherty, a psychotherapist at Coastal Integrative Counseling. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you're here with me. Jane actually takes an integrative approach to healing. She focuses on the mind, body, and spirit connection, which is something that always resonates with me. That's the lens that I actually use when I think about personal transformation. So today we're going to talk through what that means, that space between spirituality and therapy, and then ultimately where that leads us when it comes to healing ourselves on each of those levels. So, just to kind of level set everyone, when we talk about spirituality, what we are really meaning is finding purpose in life through this connection to something that's, much larger than ourselves. So, with that, I'd love to start out with the foundation of your work. Jane, how do you integrate spirituality into what you do as a therapist?
It's definitely working as a holistic therapist. I mean, my approach, as you were saying before, it's really about the mind, body, spirit connection, the whole person.
Hmm.
So rather than focusing only on symptoms or specific mental disorders, I use an approach that touches on those three areas, equally, basically. So in the mind approach, that's the evidence-based talk therapies, cognitive behavioral therapy, and addressing unhelpful thought patterns and cognitive restructuring and understanding emotions and that kind of thing. And then the body approach, we're talking about more of the physical and energetic well-being.
Hmm.
So mental health is so closely tied to physical and physiological, um, par- you know, parts of our being.
Yeah.
So if you incorporate things for body work like mindfulness and breath work and light yoga and somatic approaches, you can really tune into where you hold stress in your body and work on helping clients release it through awareness and gentle movement and things like that.
That's fantastic.
And then the area that we're really focusing on today is how the spirituality affects. And that's really talking more about the meaning and inner life of ourselves, right? So, I mean, through introducing spirituality into my practice, it's really just about exploring existential aspects of healing,
Mm.
right? So, purpose, intuition, connection to something larger than oneself. And that can include things like guided meditation, imagery, or values based discussions. And then using all three of those, working toward integration and overall personal growth. So that means sort of working toward overall balance and self-awareness and encouraging my clients to integrate mental, physical, and spiritual practices into their daily life just to sort of support long-term well-being and balance.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like obviously all of those aspects are so important to your overall well being as a human while we're here.
Right, right,
And if you kind of lose sight of one of those things, you're almost like teetering a little from being grounded.
right.
But
And it can keep you sort of out of balance so you don't get that overall integration,
yeah.
which can lead to, lifelong growth and healing.
So you brought up, this mental, emotional, even physical, and then like spiritual components of this whole therapeutic practice that you have. How do you see that actually leading to more of like a spiritual healing?
Well, and the spiritual approach doesn't replace, obviously, psychological or body-based therapy. It complements them,
Hmm.
really, by addressing the deeper existential wounds that trauma can leave behind.
Mm.
So, when we experience trauma, it can lead us to loss of feeling safe or being able to trust or loss of connection and meaning in our lives. And those are all what sort of make our lives worth living.
Yeah, yeah, trauma's a really big one. I imagine that you have a lot of clients who come to you trying to seek refuge from some of the things that they've experienced in their lives through each of these avenues, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
Well, sure. Yeah, that's right. And, trauma can make life feel really chaotic and
Mhm.
unfair, and a lot of times even meaningless to people who are really struggling with healing. And the spiritual lens can help you build a sense of, coherence and integration. So see your pain and your struggles within a larger context of growth and resilience and or transformation really, and shift your mindset from a place of victimhood to more meaning. And that can be deeply healing.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, every single client is different. Every single human is different. So that journey can look very different from one person to the next.
Absolutely.
How do you feel like the trauma and those past pains ultimately affect somebody from really making that connection and acknowledging that we are connected to something larger than ourselves?
Well, I think, trauma can really keep us sort of stuck
Mm-hmm.
in a place where we're not able to connect with that part of our inner sense of being or belonging to something bigger than ourself and more vast,
Mm-hmm.
and realizing, it's so painful when we're stuck in this past trauma, and that really sort of almost keeps a lot of people from trying to heal it, because
Mm-hmm.
it's scary to try
Yeah.
to dig into all that stuff for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so by introducing the spirituality part of it, and that by no means do I mean religiosity to that, and each client is coming in with their own sort of opinions or thoughts regarding spirituality. And some come in with no connection to it at all, and some come in with a really religious background and all of that. So it really is an individualistic approach based on, it's always client led, based on, not prescriptive, from me,
Yeah.
where this kind of spirituality is going to be, most helpful for you.
Yeah.
It's really a collaboration, and depending on people's journey and where they are in it, they may be more open to different kinds of approaches. Um, and so we just kind of go from there in terms of what's going to be most helpful for them. But I think when you're asking what keeps people sort of stuck or what's hard, I think it's that almost a lack of belief or hope that they can heal,
Mm.
and I think spirituality and bringing that something connection to something bigger than ourselves into the room with us can really enhance that sense of connection, and almost help develop a hope that there is something bigger than this pain.
Yeah. I mean, from what I'm hearing you say, is it's partially a mindset shift. And
Hmm.
so really a component of quote unquote healing is managing your mindset. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. But sometimes, when people are really stuck and suffering, it's hard to, because our nervous systems are so, activated. We're
Mm.
not in a place of calm. So when we introduce into practice parts of, the spirituality aspects, such as like a meditation or the somatic approaches like breath work and body work, that can help us restore a sense of calm. And that spirituality approach can often support this mindfulness and presence, which can calm your nervous system and help process that trauma gently, which starts with a little shift in the mindset of
Hmm.
what's possible for me.
I love that. So I think that those are really good examples. Obviously, like you said, healing takes time. People might think that healing is this like dramatic transformation, but really what it sounds like is you can be taking these little steps every day to lead yourself to a greater existence. So, what I'm hearing as well is there are certain practices or approaches that people can use to reconnect with themselves and get themselves back into a place that's like for their betterment. And you had mentioned like the breath work and the meditation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think one of my key, sort of statements I say over and over to people, and it's sort of my own mantra, is meditation will change your life. And a
Mm.
lot of people think they may have tried it, they may have heard about it, they may think it's, woo woo or not for them, but just practicing with starting with the breath work and being mindful of your breath and trying to become a little bit more centered, even just for a few moments a day, can really begin the process of you being able to regulate your nervous system and be more open to the guided imagery and the meditation and healing and considering deeper connections to bigger parts of our universe.
Mm.
And even just connecting with nature can be a really spiritual experience for people.
Mm.
Sitting quiet in nature for a few minutes a day
Yeah. And that
can really help settle.
it makes me think about being present. I think so many times people go throughout their day and they're just thinking about the next thing they have to do, or they are so worried about, the past or the future that they're not really being in the moment and witnessing all of
Right.
the magic that's happening around us. So,
Absolutely. I mean, that spirituality approach often supports, mindfulness and presence, which is so important in that moment, like you just mentioned.
yeah.
And that alone, even just for a couple minutes a day I mean, effectively calms the nervous system and helps process trauma gently, in a gentle way.
Mm. I love that saying, processing it in a gentle way, because I think people don't give themselves enough grace as well. It's always,
Mm-hmm.
I should be here, or I'm not where I want to be, or, some kind of mental statement like that, which is more negative than positive. So if we just allow and say, like, I'm exactly where I need to be, and it's okay if I'm here, but I can always become better or more.
Right. Oh, yeah. And I mean, and part of that is sort of growing your sense of, like you said, people don't give themselves grace. And I think it also comes down to a lot of self-compassion.
Mm,
Because I think we're the first ones to get on our own back and say, you should be here, you should be further along, you shouldn't let this affect you so much, whatever it might be.
yeah.
Um, and it's important to recognize that this, like yoga and meditation or energy healing, can really reestablish trust in your body and create, an open space for calm awareness
Mm,
and help you live from a more centered, place.
I love that. So do you think that those practices and, establishing trust within ourselves, that'll help us learn to love our humanness more? I- Like, how do we, because, there could be people who say, well, I don't necessarily like doing any of those practices. So how do we kind of help someone overcome that hurdle?
Right. I mean, practice, and that's part of, being completely accepting to working with clients, or accepting yourself for just where you are in
Mm,
terms of your openness
mm,
to some of the things I mentioned, like meditation and yoga. But there's all different ways that people can connect to that sense of there's something bigger and more meaningful than just
mm.
me and my stressors at the moment, if
Yeah,
that makes sense. So
yeah.
practices like meditation, I mean, prayer, and that doesn't have to mean religious prayer. Journaling is very helpful for a lot of people. Energy work and breath work, they can all help you, reconnect to your inner self. And by reconnecting to your inner self, however that's going to work for you, it can really help us release, shame and guilt, and reclaim our innate wholeness. And that helps build that self-compassion.
Mm, I love that. So for someone who is, just starting this journey, it can probably feel very overwhelming, especially if you are in a place of negative mindset, of
Right.
trauma, things like that. I mean, what would be guidance that you could offer someone who is just in the beginning stages or not even necessarily there, but hearing this message?
I mean, I would. definitely encourage people to consider, even if they maybe tried it before a while ago or have a less than hopeful attitude that it might help them, to just consider exploring some gentle practices like a guided meditation, which I will sometimes recommend a certain one that comes from a place. There's loving kindness meditations, which are
Hmm.
very helpful in creating and growing your sense of self love. Or just gentle breath work, and it can only be a couple minutes a day. And, beginner yoga, or just consider seeking out a therapist. But one caveat with that is you want to make sure that people understand there's all different kinds of therapists out there, obviously.
Hmm.
And you want to make sure that do a little research. Vet your therapist. Look up on their Psychology Today profile, which most of us have up there. It just kind of explains our approach and what we're about, because there are a lot of different options in terms of the type of therapy that you seek out.
Yeah.
And also making sure you feel like that person's a good match for you. Because, like in all things, you don't want to go in and feel uncomfortable or not feel settled with a person. And there's the right match for every person.
I
And I feel some people get discouraged if they may try for the first time and end up sitting down for the first time in therapy with somebody that they don't feel like is a good match. And then they say, forget it, it's not going to work for me,
Yeah,
you know? So
absolutely.
almost trying to keep an open mind about this is going to be a healing journey and I can change my mind. And it should be a collaborative relationship between you and your therapist.
Hmm.
And you should feel comfortable, in the things you're starting to explore or talk about
Yeah.
as you get to know them.
Yeah, I think that that's such an important part of this as well is, even regardless of what people are doing, if it's therapy or even the practices that you've been mentioning,
Mhm.
you could try it once and maybe it's not going to work necessarily the way that you had envisioned it would. That doesn't mean that you should just completely stop and never try again. There's always going
Right.
to be opportunity for you to try again and then maybe even have a greater experience.
No, right. You're sure. I mean, I've been to a bunch of different yoga classes with a bunch of different, um, yogis, and some of them I come out and I feel like that was really transformational and hit me really in a great way. And others I'll come out and it was fine. I stretched, but I don't get the
Yeah.
same
Yeah,
outcome. And
definitely.
so that's not to say yoga's bad. It's just to say sometimes it's really meaningful and hits you in the right way. And other times you can keep going and expect a better experience.
Absolutely. It's not a match.
Right, right.
So it's evident that, you've worked this way with others and you've been on your own journey as well. Is there something that you've learned about healing that continues to surprise you at all?
I think, yeah. I mean, I think it's miraculous. And I think our mind and body and the connection between them is just, for me, just so awesome.
Mm.
So that's part of why I'm passionate about what I do and the work that I do with people and in the world, because just the ability to connect another human or myself to this sort of inner consciousness through connecting to my inner self makes me have just more hope for the future, and learning throughout the way. Like you said, something that continues to surprise me is recognizing that this journey to healing is not linear. It's like a roller coaster ride. You've got ups and downs, and that's part of our humanity. And when we work to accept that and acknowledge that, it makes it more of a fun ride.
Mm. That is such a beautiful way to end. And I greatly appreciate that. That goes back to the whole giving yourself grace and acknowledging like life is not going to be a straight path. There's always going to be hiccups along that, whatever journey that you're taking. But
Hmm.
just if you're moving two steps backward, it might feel like you're moving backward, but that doesn't mean you're moving backward. You're moving forward still. So
Right. We're always learning. I think that's part of it too. Recognizing we're all works in progress.
Absolutely. Well, Jane, thank you so much for sharing your time and your insights with all of us.
You're welcome.
I'm so grateful that you were open to having this conversation and, bridging the therapeutic side of things with the spirituality side. So, again, thank you for your time and
Great.
we appreciate you.
Okay. Thanks so much, Jen. Have a good weekend.
You
Bye
too.
bye.
Bye.